start the intro. Again, my name is simply Sherry. Welcome to this Sunday's edition of Keep the Mic On. Let's talk about the book. Our host for this evening will give you more information about that once the segment starts and who our awesome feature is, because all of us are excited for them this evening. Each week, since the start of the stay-at-home orders, we have gotten together to make sure that the arts and that we're still connected to the art in a different way, to do something a little bit more than just an open mic. So if you come back each week, it's a different host, a different focus, but what you will get to know is a little bit more about the art and the artist. So my week is called From Behind the Microphone, and I have such a fun one planned in a couple of weeks, but next week is hosted by, and I'm gonna kick it to, Charity Blackwell. She's muted as she's talking.
Unmute, Charity.
Hey everyone, my name is Charity Blackwell. I am 1/4 of this amazing collective, Keep the Mic On. I'm also currently in Hilton Head, South Carolina. So if my connection is a little bit flaky, it's not my connection. It is the connection of this establishment of which I'm staying in. But I also host the portion of Keep the Mic On that is called Art Therapy, where I bring in different artists that use their art form that is a part of healing for not only themselves but or others in this community. And it's been a really awesome and amazing experience. I'm very, very proud to be part of this collective and be a part of this opportunity. And yeah, so I'm just gonna apologize ahead of time, and also past tense, because I have been struggling with this connection that I'm dealing with. But if I get cut off, or if anyone else get cut off because this is under my account, it is all because of moi. So I'm extremely sorry in advance. So just understand, I'm gonna do whatever I gotta do to make it work. Without further ado, I'm gonna pass it off to the poet laureate of Alexandria, the one and only Kaniki. Everybody, please, put your fingers together, put your hands together, put your souls and hearts together for the one and only Kaniki.
I'm gonna have Charity walk around with me and introduce me to everybody. As when I meet somebody, they be like, "Excuse me, what's your name?" I want her to be like, "The one and only Kaniki." Like, Charity is like the bestest of hostesses ever. Anyway, and we're back. I'm very excited for today. Like Charity says, I am Kaniki Jakarta. The portion of my show is called, yep, I was just in London. That's so funny. Our portion of my show is called Poets and Platforms, where I feature poets who provide platforms for the art form. But I am very much looking forward to today. I don't know what kind of strings we had to pull to get Turtleberry, but I'm very happy. So I'm going to kick it over to your hostess for tonight, Danielle. They don't call her the girl genius for nothing. Kicking it over to her so we can talk to Turtleberry and talk about all the millions of books that she has.
Okay, so I had to unmute myself. So I am super excited. I'm gonna start with, let me introduce myself first. For those of you who don't know me, I am Danielle Reed, also known as Girl Genius. On my week, I do Let's Talk About the Book. And when I tell you, I'm so excited to talk about books tonight with the person we have on as our feature. Y'all have no idea. So if you were here about, was it last month or the month before?
Last month.
Yeah, it was last month. You were here last month. We had Naja on as our author. And in the middle of the conversation, we brought up Turtleberry, and a lot of people co-signed on her as probably one of the most prolific writers we know. And so I kind of just threw it out there and I said, well, I'm going to see if I can get her on the show. So I had to ask, and I managed to pull her out long enough to get her on the show. Y'all don't understand, this is a feat. Normally we'd have a poet on here, but she is bigger than that. So I'm not gonna, like normally we'd have a poll, we'd have them open up with a piece. We're not doing all that today. We're just gonna jump right into everything and you will understand why in a minute. So for somebody who writes, she has a really, really short bio, but in the context of what's about to happen, it makes a whole lot of sense. So if you guys are not familiar with Turtleberry, she is a writer out of Baltimore. She does romantic fiction. So she writes romance novels and most of them focus on women. There's a whole bunch of different things going on. And they are some of the, even if you're not really into that, like, trust me when I tell you, they are so well written and they're so worth the read. I have 3 on my bookshelf. She has 13 books published out there in the universe. So if you want to jump into these, there's an abundance of these out there. All of them are on Amazon. And I believe, didn't you just drop a book like within the last week or so?
Yeah, I dropped one on Monday.
Okay, so we're gonna start with, before I even get to the questions, I put the link in 13, not 30. We're not quite that level yet. 13, including the one from Monday. Because Kanika was like, did you say 13 or 30? 13. So we're lucky number 13. The link is in the chat, along with she keeps a blog. She's not just a writer, but she also does creativity workshops. She's just absolutely amazing to talk to. So instead of opening with a poem, I'm gonna have you start with, tell us about the book that just dropped. Start there.
Okay. The book that just dropped is called Both Sides of Me, and it is true to what I usually write. It's a love story, but also a story about a girl kind of dealing with life. Most of my books stem around women dealing with life, and love comes because, of course, love is a part of life. So in this particular story, the girl has made some changes in her life where she used to do certain things and now she doesn't anymore. She's changed her life. She got a job, she's going to school, and she meets a guy. And the story basically stems around her meeting this guy and how they fall for each other, and then how her past life comes into play with her future life and how they mesh. So that's where the title came from, Both Sides of Me. So that's the book I just dropped. I believe it was Monday. I can't remember. 2020 is all like one big blur to me right now.
I barely know what day of the week it is, but I totally get it. I just know that it was within the last couple of days. I was like Monday, Tuesday, but yes, this week. So, but just so you guys know, there's a book as of this week. There's a brand new book on Amazon. So how long did it take you to write this one in particular?
That one in particular was one I guess it took me about a month maybe or less to write this one. I've been sitting on it for a while. I tend to do that sometimes with my stories. I'll write a story, finish it, and then sit it in the corner and be like, I don't know if I want to release it. I don't know if I want to release it. That one started with a challenge that I did for a New Year's writing challenge, where it started with a prompt, and Lord only knows what the prompt was, but I started that story off, and then I let it sit for a couple weeks, and then I decided to come back to it and actually finish it. And so that's where that one came from. So I guess I would say that one took me about a month to do, off and on, with procrastination being what it is.
Yeah, and I asked that for a reason, because I'm lucky enough that you and I talk about writing and writing process quite a bit. So I know, like, the whole, how long does it take you to do something kind of varies.
Yeah.
Like, I've seen you like 3 weeks later, I'm done. And I've seen you like 3 years later talking about, why can't I finish this one?
Yeah, I still ain't finished that one though. 3 years later, it still has
Probably
holes.
not. Probably not. But that is to say, like, is it a matter of how vested you are in the story? Is it a matter of, I've got multiple projects and life hit me? Is it a matter of, like, what's the difference in the ones that take 3 weeks and the ones that take like 3 years?
To be quite honest, it's my level of crazy at the time. Characters in my world, characters speak to me, so they have to come to me and tell me the story. So it just depends on how they come to me and tell me the story, how fast they come to me and tell me the story. I've done my 1,200 page project. I did that in 7 months, and the characters kept talking and they wouldn't shut up. And that was 7 months raising a kid. I just wrote all that I could. I have novels that I finished in a month. They have something called NaNoWriMo, which is National Novel Writing Month in November. I've successfully completed that twice. I have published books that have come from both times that I've successfully completed that. And then there are other times, like this one novel that I'm working on now, where the character, she's just sometimey. She talks to me when she feels like it. She sends me mixed signals. She left a big hole in her story, so I wrote a bunch of the story, and then there's like this big hole now that I have to fill. So it really depends on the characters and how the story flows from there. There's sometimes I just get into it and I'm writing constantly. And then there's other times where I'm staring at the wall, looking at the paint on the wall, just hoping that at least it'll tell me something.
I know there's at least one or two series where you have the characters that come back to you, and apparently they've talked to you more, for a good while there.
Yeah, I have. That's my 1,200 page project where I had a bunch of characters who would not shut up. And they just kept talking and talking and talking and talking. And so they came back to me. I have a series that I started this year where I have a family of characters who are talking to me currently, where I'm going from one sibling to the next, telling their story. So yeah, sometimes they do that. They continue to talk and they want repeats. I have books where I have readers who want sequels to books, and I'm waiting to see if the character decides to talk to me again. But we'll see how that goes.
I was gonna say, is it I'm waiting on them, or is some of it, hey, my readers are asking for conversation?
The one book that they want a sequel to is my very first book, and they're asking for it, but the character is really she's a super complicated character. She had a lot going on with her, so getting her to talk is a little bit tricky. And when she does talk, she gives me heavy stuff. So it's a matter of listening to her, but still I want to keep it light, because it is, I'm all about the happily ever after. That's my thing. Is I write romance. I write romantic fiction. That's my rule. There has to be a happily ever after. They have or what we call a happy for now. Gotta have one of them.
Which I was gonna ask, is that, given the moments that you write in, is that more difficult at times than others to give them the, hey, we're all gonna end on a happy note?
It depends. Yeah, that one for the first story was pretty difficult to give her get to the happy for now, the happily ever after for her. But in general, not so much, because I love a good love story. So it's like, it's gonna be happy. We're gonna get the happy ending.
I mean, in reading these books now, like, I feel like this is a necessary thing to have. Can we have something that ends on a positive note, given the way that the year has been thus far?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. The way 2020 is going, I need as many happily ever afters as possible, because the whole year is just trash.
I'm waiting for Jurassic Park or something. Like, I just posted up something today. It's like, it's August 2nd. We've reached level 8 now of Jumanji. Like,
I'm
like,
waiting for the zombies. I'm waiting for the zombies for real.
that's October. That's
That's
October.
October. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
The
be
zombies
prepared. I'll
coming
get my
forward in
flamethrowers
my
together.
timeline. The zombies come in October. Like, I was like, I have the "You Are Here," and then it was like zombie apocalypse in October, and like, and then it was like Thanksgiving. What? Because I know you write other. Because I know you write other things other than this. Like, what draws you back to doing romantic fiction?
Um, I have no clue, honestly. Because one would think I'm a romantic, and I truly am not. I'm so jaded, it's ridiculous. But I guess I love reading romance novels. When I started reading books, I would devour books. I still devour books, but I would devour books as a child, and I would go grocery shopping with my mom and see the Harlequins in the grocery store on the stand, and I would sit there and probably read half the book while we're walking through the store before she even noticed I had it in my hand and then snatch it from me, because I wasn't supposed to be reading that stuff. Uh, but I've been reading romance for a really long time, and it's just, I love romantic movies, and it's just something about the meeting of two people and them, falling for each other, and that just gets me. And when I write about women's lives, I want them to have that, you know, that that moment, that happiness. And so I think it just keeps pulling me back. I don't know. It's like The Godfather. Every time I try to get out, it pulls me back in.
I feel like that's funny because you said I'm jaded, but I write these romance novels because I guess normally when you ask authors, like, are you writing about, especially when you do like things other than poetry, are you writing about your real life? Are you writing about things that have happened to you? Where are you pulling your inspiration from? If I'm in the jaded lane, where's the inspiration to write the other stuff?
I music mostly. So I get inspired by songs. I listen to Spotify a lot. I'll listen to different songs and I'll get inspired watching movies. Everything inspires me. Commercials, television shows. I watch HGTV like I'm a crackhead. I'll get inspired by that. So I just finished a story where I was inspired from looking out my window. Like, I just was staring out my window and I got inspired to write a story and I wrote it. So.
Oh, I got a music question for you later, but we'll get to that. That comes at the end. That comes toward the end of the interview. There's always a music question in there somewhere. If knowing that, then I guess how to phrase this, like, because you have so many places to draw inspiration from, like, I guess, what does your process look like?
My process, I don't write outlines. Every time I write an outline, it sits and collects dust. I've tried to write outlines before. They're all sitting in my Google Docs waiting for me to do something with them because I did the outline and now I don't want to touch the story anymore because I'm crazy. I basically get introduced to a character some kind of way through a song, through a commercial, through just regular life, through conversations, stuff like that. I get introduced to the character and the story starts to unfold and I start to write it and I just work my way through it. There's no real complicated process to it, I guess. It's just me sitting down and writing. I find I write best when I'm supposed to be doing something else.
Always.
So I get a lot of writing done at work. But yeah, my process is it is that simple for me. I know for a lot of other writers, it's a little bit more complicated. They got to sit down and have the proper cup of coffee. If I'm handwriting, I have to have the right pen and I have to be writing in the right notebook. But I've gotten away from handwriting and I do most of my writing on computer now.
I was gonna say, I still handwrite from time to time if I feel like it's just right there. I guess in my realm, it's a little easier to do. It's better for me to do that sometimes because it makes it easier to memorize. But you don't have to memorize your stuff. So there's that. Oh, Kaniki's like, I still handwrite too.
I have a couple stories I've handwritten that I need to actually type up that I'm thinking about touching. That they aren't finished because I handwrote a lot when if I can't write in my computer, or I can't, like if I don't have my tablet available, I don't have my computer available, I just have pen and paper. Or if they frown upon me typing in a meeting, and I'm like, okay, well then I'll just handwrite in this meeting because y'all are boring me. So yeah, I have that reminds me, I do have 2 pieces of handwritten that I need to type up.
Would you, I know, because I know what you do when you're not writing, like, would you give that up to write full time?
Give my job up to write full time?
I mean, if you made that, if that was your thing, if you could do that, would you give that up to write full time?
I couldn't see myself writing full time. I think it would be too much pressure. I have friends who write full time. They write like they're full-time artists. That's how they feed themselves. And it's just too much pressure. I went, oh my God, 3 years without publishing a book. And if I was a full-time artist, I would have starved to death. Fool myself. So I like to keep writing as a passion instead of as a job for me. And that works for me. I feel like it would take away from what I do, even thinking about the money aspect of writing and trying to make money off of books has become a little bit stressful to me, that I have to step away from that and remember that I write to amuse myself. First and foremost, I have friends who read my work and they enjoy it, but even without them, I write to amuse myself. So I have to remember that, and I think if I was a full-time artist, that would get lost somewhere.
Yeah, that, like I said, it's kind of a little, in the world of books and book publishing, is a little backwards. It's like it's not as easy as it sounds to just say, hey, I'm going to write a book, get published, and then make the New York Times bestseller, and that's it. It doesn't.
Oh my! Don't get me started on that. Yeah, that is. We talk about that on Twitter. I'm a Twitter junkie. I'm addicted to Twitter, and it's one of the topics we talk about all the time. Like getting published, getting your book out there, and even thinking you're going to get on the New York Times bestseller list is insanity. Like
it is. At some given point in my life, I thought I was going to be able to do the books thing and be an author, and I am, but given the gaps in time between the time I've done books, I'm just like, yeah, it's so, unrealistic to think that it's not that it's not possible, it's just super unrealistic.
Yeah, people are doing it. Indie publishing now has become, I started in 2012. I published my first book in 2012. I just had to remind myself of that by looking it up a while ago. It was December of 2012. I published my first book. I had just really been introduced to indie publishing at the time. It wasn't as big as it is now. I have friends now who are full-time making money off of their books and their indie publish, and they do indie publishing. But the volume that they have to produce, how often they come out with a book is at a pace that I can't keep up with you. Like I have one friend, she comes out with pretty much a book a month.
Yeah, if that's what I had time to do minus the full time, I probably still couldn't do that. Not once a month. I think my first one, and I did a creative nonfiction book years ago. I think my first book took 8 weeks, so 2 months, 8 weeks, something like that. So,
and they take how long they take. They honestly take how long they take, the stories. Some of them are quick and easy, and I think the fastest I've written a story, like if you look at it in terms of words, National Novel Writing Month is 50,000 words in 30 days. And I would say that's the fastest that I have written a book. But it takes how long it takes. The story comes to you, and then there's other processes that you have to do. There's the dreaded editing, all of that stuff that goes with it. I tend to not edit as much as others do. I like to write clean, which probably is the reason why it takes me longer to write, because I edit while I write. So that can slow the process down as well if you're constantly editing while you're writing the story.
Which is actually going to get into the next thing I was going to ask you, which is I know what the writing process looks like now. What is your editing process? You edit while you write?
Yeah, I edit while I write. I reread, I go back, I change stuff. I have beta readers who read my work and catch grammatical errors and spelling errors and some continuity things. And then after they're done with it, then I reread it again to make sure it says what I want it to say, because I truly am one of those I said what I said writers. There's different types of writers, and I am I said what I said. I don't like, which is probably why I would not work in traditional publishing, because the editor would come at me with some stuff, and I'd be like, no, I said what I said. That's how I wanted it to go. That's the way the story went, and boom, you either like it or you don't. But that's kind of how I go. I try not to get too caught up in it and start to overthink it, because then you get to overthinking. I start to second guess stuff, and then I'm sitting on the novel for 3 years with a hole in it, which I am actually doing right now because I'm overthinking it. But yeah, that's pretty much my editing process.
It's for anybody who's dug into the writing process, like really, really down in the trenches. It's hard to edit and write, because you're gonna do what you want and not what you have. So this is a lot more difficult than it sounds. Editing, I do editing I try not to do editing for grammar, but I'm also an editor for a living. So it just, I have probably my biggest issue with editing for continuity. Like, I know what I said, but I gotta, like, that don't make sense, because that's not what I said 3 chapters ago, because I didn't go back and read it. So I understand how difficult that is.
Yeah, that's why I have my beta readers, because sometimes I thought it said one thing, and I swear that's what I wrote, but then they read it and that's like, that's not what you said.
You're like, damn, now I gotta fix it.
Yeah, basically. But like, I thought I wrote that. I just thought that in my mind. Oh, damn. Okay.
So what is then your biggest challenge when trying to either write or publish?
Procrastination. Hands down. Procrastination and overthinking. So the self-doubt and the overthinking and the procrastination are probably tied. I will sit on a project and I'll procrastinate and I'll get one done and procrastinate from publishing it, or Then there's the self-doubt. Will anybody like it? Is it worth it for me to publish? Should I just keep it to myself? And because I'll keep it to myself and I'll just enjoy the story myself, just read it and be like, oh, that was good, and never share. So I would say definitely the self-doubt, overthinking things, and procrastination are my biggest challenges.
Do you go back and read your older ones, your older books, like your first, second, third?
All the time, like a crackhead. I'm not even gonna lie. I mean, I'm not one of those authors who doesn't read their work after they're finished. I have one work in particular that is an annual read that I read every year. Haven't read it yet this year. These Women.
Oh yeah.
The one Naja calls crack. Yeah, that one.
It is. It is crack. For those who've not read that one, it's a series. And so there's a part 1, 2, and 3, yeah?
3, yep. There's 3 books. There's 3 books on Kindle, 6 books in paperback because it was so thick. But
right.
Yeah, but I do go back and read my work, especially when I want to, when the overthinking and the self-doubt get into play. I'll go back and read past stuff and I see how it makes me feel. And I remember that I can do this and I'm pretty good at it. So that kind of pushes me to publish again or put a story out there.
That's actually a really good reminder to go back and, to reread this and go, yeah, I can actually do this. I don't know that I'm always good about that, but that's actually really good advice. And since we're talking about that, I will tell you, and I said this when we first talked about, when Naja was here and we talked about having you on the show, one of the reasons why I was really, really excited is something that a lot of people don't know is, in addition to the writing, like you actually do workshops and things of that nature. You've done writing workshops and creativity workshops, and she's very, very good at bringing things out. And literally one of my favorite poems that I have ever written, like ever in life, came from sitting in one of your creativity workshops. And I don't know if you knew that or not.
I don't think I did know that. I'm trying to remember.
Anthem was written in 10 minutes sitting in your creativity workshop. I have rewritten that poem a couple of times because it got edited. I actually took it to nationals with me as a group piece. That was something that came out of the creativity workshop. I have competed with that poem. I have scored ridiculous numbers with that poem. And it was all because I literally just sat there and it was like 10 minutes worth of actually listening to you explain how this works. So if anybody here and a couple people are in here saying, yeah, Miata was saying, yeah, she's gotten a lot from your creativity workshops, and a couple other people said the same thing. So for anybody that's here, I don't know if you're doing another one anytime soon, online, offline, whatever, when we get off punishment, however this works, but I'm so here for it if you do.
I may think about starting doing something when we get off punishment. I don't, when the world goes back to, I can't even say the world's going to go back to normal. When the world gets to the actual new normal and we get into like a plateau of flat space, or, where we're kind of leveled off. I enjoyed doing the workshops. They were helpful to me to get outside of my shell and talk to people, but also get creative myself. I got some ideas from some of my workshops. Yeah, they were fun.
Which is what I was going to ask you. Are you, I know that, those of us who sat in the workshop got something out of it. Are you also doing that for you as well? Are you getting something out of that where you're like, yeah, I'm teaching, but now I've got like 10 other ideas I need to go work on because I just, sat there with you guys?
Yeah, that usually in a workshop, I'll get inspired by something, because a lot of the exercises I use, my favorite one is, of course, the ones using music. A lot of those are my go-to exercises. So that is how I, you know, get my ideas. And so when I'm in a workshop and everybody's working, sometimes I'm just, you know, trying to focus on the workshop, and other times little ideas pop in my head. And of course, because I'm doing something else, all of the ideas sometimes pop in my head at once, and then it's like, no, you need to write this down. I was like, no, I'm doing a workshop, I can't write this down.
Oh gosh, the mind of a multitasker. I promise you,
It's a dangerous place.
it's dark and dangerous, and they're ninjas.
Yeah, a lot.
with they don't have swords, they have pins, and they're stabby.
Exactly.
Speaking of, since we're talking about punishment, aside from your own stuff, what are you reading? Like, I will tell you, I always ask when I do my book interviews, I ask about what people are reading, and then as you're going, somebody, maybe me, whoever else is listening, can start typing this in the chat so that we always recommend books. So who are you reading right now?
Oh, who am I reading right now? I just finished reading 2 books by an author named Christina C. Jones. And she's an indie author who I absolutely adore. Her books never cease give me all of the feels. And by all of the feels, I mean all of the feels, all of them. I read a book. Oh, I read this great book by Chinsia Higgins. It's CHENCIAC Higgins. And she wrote a book called Things Hoped For. And it is actually a female book, which we don't have a lot of in romance. And it gave me all of the feels. I loved that book. I was so hyped for that book when it came out, and it did not disappoint me at all. So I just read that. I read another one of my favorite authors that I'm reading right now is Alexandra Warren. Her books are great. I read a lot of indie authors, and a lot of these indie authors I communicate with on Twitter. Like I talk to them. We go back and forth. So these are, you know, indie authors who are out there doing the same thing that I'm doing. And so I like to support indies. What else? I read a lot of romance, y'all, because I need happy endings. This world is trash. Like, you get on Twitter, you're on there for 5 seconds and you want to blow up something. And so I'm reading a
That's generally frowned upon.
Yeah. A lot of shit's frowned upon, but they're still doing it. So why can't I? I'm just saying. So I read a lot. I'm reading a lot of romance. Beverly Jenkins is an old school, traditionally published romance writer who I'm trying to read some of her books. She writes historical romance mostly. And so I'm trying to catch up on reading her stuff. Like, some of her stuff is like 20 years old, and but it's still great. It's still timeless, good stuff. So I'm just reading a lot of romance. When I'm not in, you know, the blah zone, or when I'm not writing. That's the other thing. If I'm writing, a lot of times I tend not to read because I'm already having a story playing out in my head already. So I don't want to jumble the stories.
Oh, I want to backtrack on something you just said when you were talking about you don't have a lot of, I guess, same-sex or lesbian romance novels. You touch it a little teeny bit, right? You don't get it, but you do touch on it a little.
Oh, to say a little bit more about that? Oh,
yeah, because I was gonna say that's something I meant to ask you earlier. Like, usually you do romance novels across the board, and one of the things that is always really interesting to me, you're right, you don't see a lot of just you see a lot of, oh my God, it's the typical Cinderella type romance novel and you don't see anything else. Like there's no question of sexuality, there's no asking other questions. You do actually touch on that in your work.
Yeah. I have personally written, that's published, two lesbian couples that I've written. I did a collaboration story with 7 other authors that called the Luminous Cruise series. I wrote one. I decided to be the one in the group to write a lesbian couple because nobody else was doing it. And I said, well, I want to stand out a little bit and challenge myself. And then in my book, These Women, one of my main characters in that story is a lesbian. And you don't see a lot of that in, especially traditional publishing. You rarely see it. In indie publishing. It pops up here and there, but it's not as popular. But there is a huge demand for it, which is like, I don't understand why more people aren't writing it, because there's such a huge, like, there are people out there who really want to read these books. And so I'm kind of hoping that more get written now that like social media being what it is. It's a gift and a curse. Readers can really be loud and vocal about what they want. So hopefully the gift that comes from this is that more of these books are written.
Yeah, I asked that because with romance novels, like romance novels are one of those things that either you really, really like them and you're really into them, or you are somewhat like, I don't see myself in those, so I don't touch them. So I wanted to bring that up, in that anybody who has not touched them or thinks that, sort of, this is sort of not my genre, I encourage you to sort of step in, because there's room for everybody within the romance.
There really is. There's something for everybody. There's some stuff out there that I wish wasn't out there. I tell people, whatever floats their boat, there's a book for it. So definitely you may have to hunt a little bit, but definitely there's some wild stuff out there, and your book is out there.
Yeah, I was gonna say we've talked about that with a couple of our other guests in regards to, I think we were talking about, maybe I asked Sherry and she'll know, like we were talking about erotica poems, and about sometimes you really wish these were not out there. They're not well done.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes you wish it hadn't happened. Like really, somebody did this? Like, are you serious?
It's been 6 years of hosting erotic open mics, 4 years of hosting a love erotic themed poetry slam. And I appreciate everyone that wishes to touch the mic, but every once in a while, there's something I didn't want to hear.
Yeah. Honestly, that's how it is with romance novels. And I see the books coming out. I see I read the blurbs, and I'm like, why did somebody take the time to write that? Like, really? Like, you decided that was a good idea? But it happens. So but yeah, there's something for everybody out there.
I got a couple more questions for you, and then we'll open it up to Q&A from the folks that are in the Zoom, and we'll take some from Facebook Live. We actually have a lot of people kind of jumping back and forth between both, so we should have some really good questions.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I told you, everybody waiting for you to sort of poke your head out and talk about the book. I usually ask if my writers are writing anything since we've been stuck in quarantine, but since you just published something,
And I just literally stopped writing something to get on the Zoom. So yeah, I'm writing.
So yeah, you're working on something else already.
Of course.
You are of the you are of the same caliber as like Stephen King. Like if you ever read one of my favorite books, and I bring this up a lot, I bring up Stephen King's On Writing, which is—
I tried to read it. I got halfway through it.
Yeah, that book is more processed than it is. It's not the scary stuff. It's all processed. But one of the things he says is like how he'll write a novel. He'll do it all. He'll sit down and he'll write the long stuff. And in between the process of I'm done with this, I've turned it in, I'm waiting for the next big one, he'll write short stories just to keep the creativity going. And package all the short stories when he has enough of them, package them together, and then he'll get, he'll do the novellas. And I want to say all but like one of the novellas has been turned into a film, just every section of the novella.
Yeah.
So, but the idea that you can do the short stuff in between the longer stuff just to keep the process going is kind of interesting.
Even like with especially with the way traditional publishing works, for the people like if you pay attention to traditional publishing, it takes so long for a book to actually become a book. The author may finish writing a book in 20, for a book that's been published in 2020, that author probably finished writing it in 2018 or 2017.
Correct.
And it took that long for it to actually get published. In the indie world, which is where I live, we don't have that long of a time frame. And so I finish a book, I go through my editing process, I get it packaged because I have to package it myself, I have to get it ready, make it look pretty for the Kindle reader. And heaven forbid I got to do a paperback, because Lord, those take work. But if I got to do a paperback, then I have to, do that process and everything like that. But throughout this, characters don't stop talking to me. Like one of the jokes is, and when I say, a writer's brain is crazy, a writer's brain really is crazy. It's like I have a waiting room in my head and there's a bunch of characters sitting around and they just, are chit-chatting. And if I step out into the waiting room, then they all start talking to me. And I have to figure out who I'm going to listen to, who I'm going to talk to next. And so there's always some story. Even when I complain that I can't write, that doesn't mean there aren't characters talking to me. It's just I haven't yet put the words together properly. But so yeah, I'll publish a book and I'll be writing the very next day. I have friends who are the exact same way. They finish writing a book, publish it, have their happy hour to celebrate that they published a book, and the very next day they're doing writing sprints.
Yeah. I am not that person. I need like 24 hours. It's like brain dump. Let that sit over there for 24 hours and then I'll jump back in. It's like, and the last thing I'm going to ask before I jump on the real questions, and this is not a left turn, I'm coming back to what I said I was going to ask earlier about music. Now, what I know is you and I are both music heads.
Yeah.
What are you, I know that there's probably different things for different moods and different, and different books and different projects. What are you on right now? What are you listening to? What's in your not what's in your playlist, because you have more playlists than I do.
I was gonna say I am a playlist junkie. Like I'll create a playlist in a heartbeat.
What's in your rotation right now?
Rotation
what's
right
rotation
now. Well, I just got off a chill hop thing where I was listening to instrumental music, chill hop type music on Spotify. So I was listening to a lot of that. So now I am back on listening to my daily playlists that are on Spotify. So it can be anything from Janet Jackson to Janelle Monáe to Coldplay to Linkin Park, Anderson .Paak. Who else pops up a lot? I just recently listened to the new Chloe and Haley, and that was decent. I felt like that's something I could play in the background, and I cannot pronounce her name to save my life. Leanne, oh God, Trey's gonna kill me. What is her name? Leanne LaHavlis or something? You know who I'm talking about.
LaHavlis,
Yeah,
yeah.
you know who I'm talking about.
LaHavlis, yeah.
I'm not good with names. I'm not good with names. I just listened to her album, and it was a good background music kind of album. I have to listen to it again in my headphones so I can actually hear all of the words to the songs and not just the music. But yeah, you know me, I listen to a lot of different playlists. I have playlists for different moods that I'm in, and I went through an Afrobeat period for a while where I was listening to a lot of Afrobeat and then mixing it with soca music, and so I'm all over the place when it comes to music. I could be listening to anything, but so yeah, that's me.
I was trying to figure out how to spell her name correctly so I could type it in the comments.
I'm glad you're trying to figure it out.
I know who you're talking about, and my brain just could not think how to
exactly. It's like
life, but I do have it. It's going in the comments. If anybody, yeah, Tiffany wrote it in the Facebook chat, so it is in there.
Yeah, it looks like Trey got it in there too.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, I'm just going to take. I'm gonna steal in and come in with host privilege with one of the questions from behind the microphone. I'm going to ask you to please explain where the name Turtleberry came from.
Oh God. Okay. Basically, they're at a period. Well, they're my two favorite things: turtles and strawberries. Strawberries are my favorite fruit, and I just love turtles for some reason. When I was in college, I became obsessed with turtles for some random reason. In high school, I ate an undisclosed number of strawberries in a contest one time, and I got the nickname Strawberry first because literally it was like one of those huge cratefuls, and they had 3 of them for the contest, and there were like 8 people in the contest. I ate one whole crate by myself while the other 8 tried to split the other 2. So I got the nickname Strawberry. Somebody told me that I hide in a shell. I don't know, some rumor that has been going around that I like to hide in my shell. So the turtle nickname kind of stuck in college, and I like to be unique, and I never seen anybody named Turtleberry. I'd never seen it before. I'd never seen it anywhere. So I was like, oh, I kind of like that. I'll mix the 2 together. Turtleberry, that works. I'll do that because it's weird and I'm weird. So got to be a weirdo, and came up with the name that way.
And FYI, for those wondering, yes, she does have turtles, actual big live turtles, and they're awesome.
They really are.
So we do have a couple of questions already. If anybody has additional questions, throw them in the chat and I'll ask, but I'm gonna have to scroll back a little bit to find. The first question came from Akil, and this is a really good question. He's asking, do you have any interest in seeing your stories translated into plays, TV or online shows or movies? Or similarly, do you have any desire to collaborate with a singer-songwriter, MC, or poet to sort of distill your stories in any of those realms?
Yeah, that is a good question. I see stories in my head, so they play out like movies in my head when I read them. So, and even the ones I write, when I read them, when they're done, they play out like movies in my head. So I could always see my stuff being like a mini series or a movie or something that would be, you know, a future wish list kind of thing, like could happen. So pretty much in that realm, that's the only thing I've ever thought about doing, is maybe a TV show, a miniseries or a movie.
That'd be fun to watch. some
I think so,
non,
especially when I blew up that car.
yeah.
I like blowing stuff up. I don't care if it's a romance novel. I might blow some shit up. That'll happen.
Kaniki asked, actually you can jump on and ask Kaniki if you want to. It's up to you. I see her getting ready to jump over.
What did I say?
About research?
Oh, I wanted to know, did you do, because when I did some research for my book, I didn't know anything about dancers in strip clubs. So I actually did a lot of strip club going when I was trying to figure out, because I wanted it to be real. So I wanted to find out if you did any research with and talk to people who were in romantic relationships when you were writing about, you know, your romantic relationship stuff. Did you do any, or is it all fictional, made up from your mind, or did you?
I didn't do anything as exciting as going to strip clubs, but I'll add that to my future list of I should try that. I do a lot of research for random stuff, so I'm on Google a lot. My Google, if you go through what I search for on Google, it is insanity. I probably have the FBI tapping my computer, but that's okay. I hope they're not bored. But I do a lot of research. I am more of a people watcher when it comes to relationships and things like that. So I people watch. I have a lot. I've been blessed to have my grandparents, both sets of grandparents had very, very long marriages. So I learned a lot about what it takes to make a good marriage from them. I have that to go from. I have friends who are in good relationships, and you know, I steal information from them all the time. But pretty much most of the stuff is off the top of my head. And also from reading other books. I do a lot. I read within my particular genre. So I'm one of those writers who consumes a lot of stuff in their own genre, and I learn a lot that way as well. But most of the relationships, all of the relationships in my stories are fictional. They're not really based on any particular couples that I know or myself or anything like that. I may steal some lines here or there from reality, but I like to live in the fictional realm because it's more fun.
That's a
Awesome.
that's a question I would ask is, I know that this stuff, it comes from your head, but has anyone read your work and go, did you take that from me? Is that me you're talking about? Or
no, I do. I have my stepmother won't read my first novel because of the content of it, and she thought that it was based on a true story. So I've had that happen, but I haven't had anybody think that a couple was based on them. I think I do a pretty good job of mixing it up a bit. So I try to throw the truth in there a little bit, but only sprinkle it, not like go, yeah, just you sprinkle it just a little bit,
yeah, I could see that
I
happening.
want to pass one comment on from the Facebook chat. Naja says to Turtleberry, first, we love you, when she says hi.
Hi, Naja.
The second thing is, says she just wanted to make a note that says very rarely are they romantic stories, that same-sex dynamics are strictly sexual erotica. She's like, you don't really get.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. When you there are a lot of like, and that's one thing people miss, the difference between erotica and romance. A lot of people think that romance novels are erotica, and it's like, no, erotica is just simply sex. The story is based off of sex. Romance novels, the story is based off of the romance, the relationship, and it's a lot of the same-sex stuff is erotica. So I want to see more of it in the romantic realm because it deserves it, and it's a good read.
Mhm.
Is it difficult to write things that you haven't necessarily experienced firsthand?
No, it's not. I have a very active imagination. If I only wrote what I experienced firsthand, I wouldn't have 13 books.
True, but I mean, like, it's very easy for me to, like, I could probably write a car chase scene, but you know, I've done research on what a car chase scene looked like, but I've never actually been in a car chase. Is what I'm getting at. More than that, it's like, some people will tell you that it's like I can't write on stuff that I haven't actually been in, you know?
Yeah, no, not for me. I've been writing romance since before I had romances. So I've always relied on my imagination, and like I said, I blew up a car in a book, and I haven't in real life blown up a car. And if you think I have, don't tell anybody.
Does it bleed? Okay, I saw I think somebody ended it, but I saw the question. The question was, are you still publishing for other people? Someone asked.
No.
Okay. Oh, here's an interesting thought. Since you just said, since you just answered the previous question, does the writing of the romance novels, does it bleed into, like, say, your relationships? Like, does it get weird, like, when somebody you're dating finds out you write romance novels? You know what I'm saying?
Everybody I've ever dated, I think, knew I wrote romance novels beforehand. So I've never had a problem with that. Yeah, I think they expect me to be more romantic than I am. So I think that's the only problem that I run into is that that's it.
Yeah, I know, like, when we talk about, like, dating poets, like, there's a level of, people expect a level of privilege where they're like, how come you ever written a poem about me? Because
you don't want me to write a poem about you.
That's the last thing you want.
Like, that's the last thing you want, man.
Yeah, if I'm writing poems about you and you've asked me to do so, that usually means that it's not going to be what you want.
Yes, that never ends well. That never ends well. Mm-mm.
And for those that are still in the conversation, so she also does write poems. So
in a past life.
She's done poems. I have it on video. I can attest. Poem somewhere in there. Trey is asking, what would you like your audience, new and old, to take away from your work?
I just want them to be happy. I want them to enjoy the story. I want them to, I guess, feel all the feels. So every feeling that I put into it, I want them, you know, to feel it and to just really enjoy the story. I write for just enjoyment's sake, not really educating. I'm not really trying to, in some aspects, I try to put a little bit of information in there, but I'm not like writing historicals and teaching about a past, past time or something like that or anything like that. So I really, like I said, feel all the feels, just like enjoy it, and like you're supposed to enjoy art.
More questions. Let me see. I'm scrolling because I thought I saw another one in here somewhere. I might be wrong. I could have swore I saw another question in here somewhere. Maybe it was on the Facebook before it disappeared. But what, at the end of the day, what was I say? How many more you think you got in you? I want to see a whole bookshelf full of books by Turtleberry.
I, if you look at my Google Drive, I have at least like 10 sitting there, just chilling. So I'm not even sure how many more I have in me, because I'll have ideas sitting and new ideas will pop up. So there'll be ideas that I haven't gotten to yet, and then I'll want to write something totally different because I'm easily distracted. So, you know, it'll be like squirrel, whole new idea just run past me, and I'm on it. So I'm not even sure how many I have in me. I think I plan on continuing to write until I can't anymore.
Like literally can't.
Like, yeah, literally, like either the characters stop talking to me, or literally my hands stop working, or, you know, and then I'll probably do voice to text at that point.
I was gonna say paperbacks or paperbacks or Kindle.
I am addicted to reading on Kindle now, because I'm a pack rat and moving books. I also am a gypsy, so I like to move a lot. And moving books they're heavy, but I have probably over 200, between 200 and 300 books in my Kindle library right now.
Really? That
Yes.
surprises me, but doesn't in the same sentence.
Yeah, it's a problem. I have friends who publish books, and then I buy them, and then I have books that pop up that I want to read, and then it's like I forget to get to them, or I love buying books, and Kindle has saved my space. It's not crowded with books, and I don't have to carry them everywhere, but there are a few books that I've read on Kindle that I want to get in paperback, and
I like the feel of the books. I
still like touching books and smelling books and having them in my hand, but I haven't physically read a book, and I haven't physically read a book all year. Everything's been on my Kindle.
On my phone. I think I ordered one at the kind of the beginning of quarantine. I ordered a book, an essay book, and past that, everything else has been either Kindle or Overdrive.
Yeah.
If I'm not sure I want to be vested in it, it's Overdrive.
And I do Audible too, so I listen to audiobooks.
I was gonna say I haven't done audiobooks probably since the end of the year. I did it a lot when I was commuting back and forth to work.
Yeah, when I had a long commute, audiobooks were everything. I just sat and listened to audiobooks, but lately, every now and again, I'll listen to an audiobook, because my commute's not that far now. I just, roll over from one laptop to the other, and
that's pretty much it. I'm literally from one end of the house to the other. That's my commute. So I got a 3-minute commute with coffee, minus a 1-hour commute where I could get through half an audiobook.
Exactly. So that's been a struggle.
Ow, I just hit my knuckle. Speaking of laptops, I'm sorry, y'all don't have to forgive me. I just smacked the heck out of my knuckle.
It'll grow back.
No, I need this finger. It's the it's the middle one.
Oh yeah, that's a useful one.
Yeah, it's a useful one. I'm gonna see if anybody else has questions, but something that I skipped over from the beginning, I guess, is there anything that, or any advice or any tips that you want to give to people who are trying to write? It doesn't matter what it is. Like, what advice do you have for other writers? Like, what is the best piece of advice that's been given to you, or what would you like to give to other people?
Put the pen on the paper. If you're trying to write, the best advice I have is to to write, to actually physically write those books, those poems, those words, get them down on paper, get them out of your head, to actually do it and try to turn off your inner editor. Just get the words down as best you can, and you can always edit it later. I think that's the best advice. I mean, it doesn't always work for me because I edit as I go, but that's the best advice is to actually write. In order to be a writer, you actually have to write. You actually have to put the words down on the paper, be it with a pen and ink or typing it. You actually, actually have to do it.
Yeah, I've been really bad about, well, I can't say that. I have not written much since quarantine. Very little. And that is partially a relief for me because of I'm not pressured to do anything right now.
Mm-hmm.
I needed to step back with everything that had been happening, but I think that I needed to hear that. Now I'm just like, okay, it's time for me to sort of throw myself back in and start writing. I'm cracking up that analysis in his down with Amazon support indie stores by getting audiobooks from Libro FM, and read Emma's Is Your Chosen Store. He's like, you knew I was going to mention that. I indeed did know you were going to mention that. Are there any other questions? Anybody want to ask Turtle anything else while we're here? I'm telling you, take advantage of picking a writer's brain because, yeah, I get you guys some good authors in here, and it's just like I'm curious because everybody has different styles and everybody does different things, and there's always at least one good takeaway from all of these interviews. So I'm like super excited that I got to like pick your brain. You have no idea.
I'm excited it's actually functioning to be picked.
Did you unmute, Sherry?
Yes, I did. I was just preparing for the next part of the day,
Well, we can do a couple of things. We've probably got
we got 2 minutes.
We got about 2 minutes, yeah.
So
I was gonna say we got about 2 minutes. I'm gonna drop, or somebody can drop. I think I did a couple comments up. Drop all of Turtleberry's information in there. If you guys want to connect, you are more than welcome to drop your social media. I think she's basically at Turtleberry at almost everything.
Yeah, I'm at Turtleberry on Twitter. I think I'm at Turtleberry on Facebook. Whenever I get on Facebook, Facebook is depressing.
It is. Mostly, I would tell you guys to go to Twitter. Follow. I advise following her on Twitter. She will drop all kinds of like new authors and things and tips. And if you're if this is your lane, go there. If you are not following her, I'd advise you to.
Yeah, I'm always sharing. I'm always on Twitter.
Mm-hmm. I see you over there. I see you.
That's where I live.
Yep, I was gonna say definitely follow her on Twitter. The links for the books, including the new one, she's on Amazon. The link's in there. The Cash App's in there if you feel like you want to buy from her directly. We definitely encourage supporting our artists. This has been fun. I'm so glad.
Yeah, this has been fun.
I do not. Who's next week?
Next week is our awesome host, Charity Blackwell, whose connection finally gave up the ghost.
I saw.
So she apologizes to everyone for her connection issues. And she let me know offline that her feature next week will be Unique Micah out of Baltimore.
Yay!
That will be next Sunday in this time slot. So please, everyone, first thing we're going to do before we officially sign off is everyone please take a moment and unmute your microphone and please give a huge round of applause and show a lot of love for Turtleberry.
Turtleberry.
Thank you.
Hey, Turtleberry.
We are so happy to see you. We're so happy to see you. Again, we are here every Sunday from about 7:30 till about 8:30. Definitely keep coming.
We're getting crazy shares. We're getting crazy shares.
Seven o'clock, Sherry.
Huh?
7 o'clock.
7. I apologize. Look, y'all, I'm tired.
I know. We know.
We are getting ridiculous shares from Facebook, just FYI. So
we are.
You can see this because I post it and like everybody's sharing it off my page. So we usually do like a little clip and or post up some info on the back end on our Keep the Mic On page. We are at Keep the Mic On everything. Cash App, Facebook, IG. We post up the new the feature for next week, usually on Tuesday. And we send the link out.
It'll be up.
Yeah, the link will go out Sunday, the day of the show, usually about noonish. So if you want to jump in the next week, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to resubscribe. We just kind of send it to everybody on Sunday. So you'll get the link. We have some really good features coming up, so I'm super.
I have some really dope things coming up. I really cannot wait.
I know.
So everyone, please be safe, wash your hands, eat the rich, and I will see y'all all next week.
Somebody scream Jumanji so we can be done with the game. All right.
Right, or somebody win this shit. Like, goddamn.
Please.